Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Shawn Murphy. My guest today is Chris DiPaola. He is a downtown Westerly business owner and is also president of the Westerly Pawcatuck Downtown Business Association. He's a returning guest to the show, so we'll meet him again when we come back, so stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Shawn Murphy. My guest today is a returning guest to the show. His name is Chris DiPaola. You may remember him from chatting about one of his radio stations, The Buzz in Westerly. And we're going to chat today about his association with the Westerly Pawcatuck Downtown Business Association and the fact that he is now president of that association. First of all, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me once again, Shawn.
So let's talk about your background a little bit. You own a couple of radio stations in Westerly and serve the greater Westerly area. One is a for-profit and one is a non-profit. So let's talk about both of them first.
Well, WBLQ AM 1230 is the for-profit station that you mentioned, serving all of southwestern Rhode Island and southeastern Connecticut. News, talk, sports, local news,
So
local
sort of
people.
full service
It is a full-service station. And the FM station, 96.7 The Buzz, actually owned by the Buzz Alternative Radio Foundation, Inc., of which I am president.
Okay.
That organization, that radio station, Alternative Rock, serving a little bit of a younger demographic, well, I'd say 18 to 35, 18 to 45 actually, because I mean you grew up in the 90s and
Right.
you know, so we're getting older.
We are. Now the Buzz, that station recently got a sort of an upgrade with its signal range, correct? Because it got a new antenna location.
That's right, a new antenna location and a new height, and on FM, line of sight height is everything. So
Right.
we've tripled our coverage with the Buzz since I've last been here.
Right, really kind of doubling your signal power really doesn't do much except like clean up your fringe area. But when you go height-wise, that's when you're really talking about expanding your coverage.
And it fills in the holes too.
Right.
There are a lot of areas throughout town where you get a little bit of static, and now they're static free, which is good.
Now, how does one who runs a radio station just how are you able to, for the layperson out there, just decide that you want to increase the range of your station? Aren't there lots of government regulations, and aren't you protecting other stations' frequencies and things of that sort?
Yes, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. I had a consultant engineer who I actually paid to do the survey to see that I could indeed move. And this was actually a tricky situation because 96.5 WTIC in Hartford is one adjacent channel to the left of 96.7. As you know, we have odd numbers on FM in this country.
Right.
If you go into England, you'll get 96.4, 96.2. In this country, it's 96.5, 96.7. Right. So I was right on that line of 96.7. And the good news is that I have a good consulting engineer, and he was able to prove that I would not cause any interference. If I were any further to the west, then there would be an issue. So I just made it, and that BDA stands for Bradford Dyeing Association. That was the old mill that used to be there. That smokestack has stood for, I would say at least 100 years, and it's 194 feet versus 59 feet is what we used to be.
Wow, so that will make a big difference in your coverage
It
area.
has.
Now, when you want to go and do that, and when there's a possibility of you kind of sort of encroaching on another radio station's signal territory, do they need to be notified of it? Do they have the right to, kind of speak out or protest or anything along those lines? Or?
Well, anybody during a certain window has a right to file a petition to deny, and that goes for any reason. If you don't like the color tie I'm wearing, you can file it.
You'll get some calls.
But it's all, I mean, the FCC will look at that, and obviously if the reasoning doesn't make any sense, obviously it will slow up the application process. Fortunately, that did not happen. From the time of filing the application to the time of it being granted, amazingly, it took a week. I've never seen that happen in my history in this business. Every single FCC application that I've ever filed has taken about 3 months. I think one other time I had one granted in 2 weeks. But
what do you think the reason for that expedient, that very quick process? Are you do you go under the radar a little bit because somewhat of a low power in that respect compared to these 50,000 watt giants?
Well, I was told that the FCC wanted to move forward secondary licenses, which is what an LPFM
Expedited
is.
your process, right?
Well, at the time, I just got in at the right time. I filed other applications for 96.7 that have taken a long time, and I just happened to do it at the right time.
Right.
It depends on who's working what at the FCC. I mean, like any other governmental agency, they're understaffed as opposed to the way they used to be.
Right.
So Mr. Whoever at the FCC or Mrs. Whoever is at the desk, and the application came in at just the right time. And everything's done electronically now, too.
Right.
Back in the day, you'd have to send the hard copy in the mail, and that also took a bit longer. And the electronic filing hit the right person at the right time, and lo and behold, it was granted.
Wow, cool. Congratulations on that, because you
Thank you, Shawn.
Get maybe some new listeners now because of the additional coverage that you have for it. So now let's talk about the AM for a moment. Now, there is still a market for AM radio, especially when you're kind of serving a sort of a local community. I mean, it's bigger than a local community, but it's not, again, like the regional FMs that you see around too. So there's a need and a purpose for the AMs these days still.
Right. Well, the AM station is a local channel as designated by the FCC. All 1230s up and down the eastern seaboard, actually up and down the country, not just the eastern seaboard, they're all designated local channels, and that's the type of class license that it is. So it's to serve a designated community, and that's exactly what 1230 does. So there is a purpose, not just for specifically AM radio, but this type of AM station.
Now, we talked about this the last time we were on the show, because we did the whole show on just one of your radio stations. But even though I mentioned, serving the local kind of greater Westerly, Rhode Island-ish area, in this day and age of radio in general, online and also the apps, anyone on the planet with internet access can listen to these stations.
That's right. We've got apps for the iPhone, and we also have something that we don't have. It's actually an app called the TuneIn app.
I have that on my iPhone, actually.
And that's a way for you to listen on Android. I actually happen to have an Android phone here, and I have the TuneIn app on my Android, and I can listen to either WBLQ or the Buzz wherever I go.
Absolutely. Or you can just listen live from the websites, the respective radio station websites, if you just go online with your laptop or something like that, correct?
That's right. WBLQ.net is the AM 1230 website, and of course the Buzz967.com is the FM website, and both respective websites have a little listen live thing that you can click on.
So let's go back in time a little bit. Because you own and or operate a couple of radio stations. So let's go back in time. I don't know how far back you want to go, but as far as your interest in radio and how you came about to where you are now, we'll get to your role as president of the Westerly Pawcatuck Downtown Business Association. But I just want people to learn about you as a business owner first, and your love of your businesses, which happen to be radio broadcasting.
Well, not to revisit our last interview, whoever saw that, but when I was an infant, I was told, I don't want to go back that far, but I was told that when I used to cry, my parents would turn the radio up really loud. So from then on in, I loved the radio. But I grew up listening to radio. I loved New York radio. Over here, where we are in the southeastern Connecticut and southwestern Rhode Island areas where I grew up, the New York AM stations just bombed in. I was a big fan of WNBC. Where the famous Imus and Howard Stern were on, and that's what got me into radio, and not so much just the shock jocks, but I enjoyed listening to radio, the music radio out of New York too, and they were still very prevalent in playing music on big AM stations back then, and that's what got me interested in it. And in the summer of 1988, I remember my grandfather Vito, he showed me an ad in the Westerly Sun, and it said that there was a radio station in Hope Valley, Rhode Island, looking for a weekend board operator. I had no idea what that meant.
Right.
And this is 1988. I was 15 at the time, and the job encompassed changing reel-to-reel tapes, cleaning the heads on tape machines, and basically shutting the station off. It was a sunrise to sunset station, 1180 AM in Hope Valley, then owned by John Fuller, who now owns some bigger radio stations over here, one which you work for.
Right, you do the morning show for Soft Rock 106.5. And all the things that you mentioned there, reel-to-reels, cleaning tape heads, shutting stations down, that stuff is so non-existent in radio now, because it's all, everything is online, and, everything is automated, and computers, and everything you mentioned, the mechanical aspect of it just doesn't exist in radio anymore.
I feel old. But you know what? I'm very thankful that I got to work through the transition of this business from analog to digital.
Yeah, we were splicing tape, cutting, editing that way. Now it's all done on the laptop.
I never mastered that.
Oh, no?
Your boss and my boss at the time was actually very good, and he showed me how to use the razor blade.
Yeah.
But now, I mean,
you splicing tape.
Exactly, but you can do everything digitally now, and it's a whole different world out there for broadcasters. But the passion for me is still there. And getting back to that local full-service radio, you know, whether you're AM or FM, I know at the beginning of the interview you'd asked me about is that the purpose AM station serve. I mean, there's no rule saying that you have to do this on an AM station. The only rule that I brought up was the fact that 1230 is a designated local channel. There's a bunch of 1,000-watt day and night, you know, 1230s. But, you know, as far as the programming goes, that's entirely up to the station owner. Our city of license is Westerly, Rhode Island, and we have a perfect little niche that we can serve there, you know, providing information, doing high school basketball, high school sports, you know, all that stuff, news and cancellations when it snows.
But, you know, I had asked about the AM because it seems in this day and age the regional FMs so dominate, you know, the airwaves, and they have such thicker and larger signals that I don't want to say that the AMs have been sort of relegated to the role they have now, but I will say that that purpose, especially your station, it's like the perfect genre for what it is and what you offer on the station. It just seems to work out perfectly for it. And I'm not talking about, you know, clear channel stations like 660 AM, The Fan, and stuff that, you know, you can hear it in 13 states. I'm just talking about, you know, an AM station. It's almost like it's designed perfectly to serve a more of a local community and the people that listen to it, as opposed to the FMs that are very corporately run, and, you know, and there's a lot of music formats on them. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Well, I do. Although, if you have an AM stereo receiver, we are one of the last AM radio stations that actually broadcasts in something called CQAM AM stereo. And if you have the right receiver, it actually sounds, in my opinion, better than an FM station. You get that full separation. And as a good friend of mine likes to put it, it sounds like an orchestra. So we do still play some music on WBLQ, even though we do a combination of, you know, news and talk and, you know, local talk and local sports. We also play music as well.
Well, this would be a good time to take a break, because when we come back, we'll get into your role as president of the Westerly Pawcatuck Downtown Business Association. Maybe we'll give that website out after, but maybe how about the websites again to your radio station, so people can maybe go and learn about them or maybe listen live to them.
That's WBLQ.net and thebuzz967.com.
All right. Chris DiPaola, owner and operator of a couple of those radio stations, but also president of the Westerly Pawcatuck Downtown Business Association, which we will get into when we come back. So stay with us. I'm Shawn Murphy. This is For the Record.